Christianity is mocked, sneered at, and even recoiled from. You can say the name of Jesus in public and people roll their eyes or get honestly offended. But when it comes to Islam, a religion that psychotically worships a god they call Allah and a prophet called Muhammad, a religion that has been behind endless wars and bloodshed since its inception, a religion that is more than just a religion. It is a military strategy. It is a set of laws and doctrines that govern a society. And those laws and doctrines are extremely oppressive. They worship death in a way unknown to modern civilization. And it is an ideology that has been transported from medieval times all the way through to modern times. The biggest brag of Muslims is that the Quran has apparently been completely unchanged and will never be allowed to be changed. That means that the ideas in the teachings for Muslims in 2025 are the same ideas that existed in the Middle Ages. And when you think about that, when you think about what was happening during those times all across the world, especially in Europe and the United Kingdom, I would say those weren't really times or worldviews that any one day would want to embrace. People used to be hung, drawn, and quartered in public. There was beheadings in the town square. There were kings and elite people living their best life, and women and children's lives weren't really respected. The entire period of medieval times was extremely violent, extremely poverty ridden, and just not good times, just not times that we want to live in now. But Islam brings all of those outdated ideas from 700 AD through to 2025. Christianity built our law in the West, our sense of compassion, dignity of the individual. Was it perfect? No. But it gave women freedom, equality before God, and societies that were generally peaceful, stable, and civilized. When we threw Christianity away and decided that we prefer to be free-minded, then we also threw away the morals and values that made the West as successful as it has been. In a way, we didn't really become free though. We became vapid, we became empty and lost. And when a society is empty and lost, something has to come in and fill that void. Because it's human nature to want purpose and to have a North Star and to have something to worship, basically. And you can see across the West that there is a lot of false idols being worshipped in our society, whether it's politicians, celebrities, sports people, and we worship ideas that are inverted morally. They're inverted. I'm talking about all of these woke causes, this cult of wokeness, like the trans ideology, identity politics, grievance activism. And while these ideologies might look starkly different to Islam, they are actually more similar than you think. Islam looks at Westerners as weak, dirty, stupid, and hedonistic. That's not an exaggeration. This is somebody coming from experience with the religion, someone who's an ex-convert, who has been taught and brainwashed and convinced by Muslims that my own people were basically below me. Some Muslims, probably most, look at Westerners and feel sorry for us and wish they could save us with their religion. There is reward for converting others. The reward from Dawah, it's called. Dawah is the act of converting infidels into Islam. And they get brownie points apparently from Allah for doing this. So they do it a lot en masse, on a large scale. They want to convert the entire world to Islam because they believe it to be a superior ideology. They believe it to be the truth. They believe that Muhammad was a prophet of God and that all of the acts of murder and warfare committed in the name of Allah are just and fair. To the extreme side of Islam, they don't feel sorry for you. They hate you. They want you dead. They despise you. They think you smell. They think you're disgusting. They think you're a pig. And that is the honest truth. That is how these people view you. Whether they hate you or they pity you, they think they are above. They think they are so pious and so close to this God, Allah, that anything that's not in or that cult, anything that is not close to the cult is haram and is forbidden. So going back to these ideologies, like the trans ideology and Islam both do the same things. They erase women. They erase women in different ways. So in Islam, in court, a woman's testimony is worth half of a man's. This is a doctrine. It is followed. It is Sharia law. What else is Sharia law? Is daughters inherit nothing from their parents. It all goes to the brother. A girl never is liberated. She's never free. As a child, she belongs to her father, and then the father passes her on to her husband. This is often arranged especially in actual Muslim countries. Marriages are arranged. She has no choice in the matter. And this can happen, obviously, as we know, at a very young age. But even women who grow into their 20s, sometimes even their 30s, as Muslims, will still be often living at home, have curfews, like they can go out, hang out with their friends, but they have to be home at 9 p.m. I've personally had friends in their 30s who have curfews that their dad, their dad enforces on them. And they're not allowed to travel anywhere by themselves. So a lot of the time what they'll do is they'll have boyfriends, they'll go traveling, they'll do everything normal people do, but they actually have to be completely dishonest to their family. And what I found that was really annoying and disturbing when I was part of that religion is that there was a lot of lies being told. There was a lot of pretending to be doing the right thing, or, quote unquote, the right thing according to this rule book, but actually just doing what they want to do, what they were born to be free to be able to do, which is to have free will. Every human born on this earth should have free will and not be owned by other humans. But Islam's all about enslavement and owning other humans, and slavery is part of the Quran. You're allowed to own slaves. It's encouraged. And men are allowed to have sex with their slaves. It's all in the Quran. And it's not some old book that, was written back in the day like the Bible and people just take parts of it. They follow this. They follow this book. And you don't understand the strength of this religion. I'm just going to use that term religion loosely because I don't believe it's a religion. I believe that it's a cult and I believe it's a military strategy. But these laws are the law. It is Sharia law. So imagine in Australia, we have religion. Anyone can have whatever religion they want. And then there's the law of the country. Now, our laws are, they're Christian laws. They're based on Christianity. And Sharia law is the same thing. It's like Sharia law is the government of the country. And they can behead people and cut their hands off and stone women in the street. It's all part of Sharia law. As I said, it's a medieval ideology that exists in 2025. And millions of people believe in it. And it's terrifying. So going back to women's rights, the girl belongs to her father and is passed on to the husband. The husband is allowed to have 4 wives. He's also allowed to hit his wife. The Quran says you can hit your wife. It pretty much says you should. It says if she's not doing what you say, hit her. If she doesn't have sex with you, give her the silent treatment. It says all this stuff. Women have to be covered from head to toe. Even in the more moderate Islamic societies, women still have to cover their arms and their legs down to their feet and their necks and their hair. And in places like Afghanistan, well, they've just been completely erased because they oppress female sexuality so much that you end up with a society of men that kind of have these urges that, women can't be seen. So they take their urges out on family members or children. And it's just like so messed up. It's so messed up. So now if we compare the woke movement to these ideas, in things like the transgender movement, which is an ideology that was invented by an academic called John Money, who was a pedo as well. And this movement chemically castrates children, reduces women to people who bleed or birthing people, or erases their spaces like their bathrooms, saying men can go in them, erases them as human beings, saying a man can actually be you by putting on a dress and some lipstick. And I know we're kind of past this now, like everyone's done with it, and it's kind of, everyone knows this now. So we're kind of rehashing old information, but it's just an example of how liberalism and Islam are kind of headed in the same direction. Different systems, same outcome, women are raised. And yet, in the West, feminists fight Christianity tooth and nail. They fight the one ideology that gives them the most freedom. It's mind-blowing. It's actually insane. Like, if you look at all the other societies and religions and everything in the world, they're all patriarchal. They're all man-based. In a mosque, men and women are separated. Men do their mosque things without women. When they have social events, I used to go to these Eid things, these Ramadan kind of festival, things, and the men sit on one side of the room together and the women sit on the other side of the room together. And it's a complete separation of the sexes in the public realm. Women aren't allowed to be in the same room as a man alone that isn't related to her. These feminists in the West, they claim to be feminist, and it's just like, it's so inverted, it's so satanic, because they abort babies, and that is so anti-feminine. That is literally, my God, you're destroying the life that women were given the ability to create life inside their body, to create a human life inside their body, and you just kill it? Like, that is so satanic, going into all of the things that feminism, that second wave feminism brought to our women, is nothing but oppression, sexualization, being alone, working hard, having no support. It's just so wrong. And they hate Christianity. They hate it, but they're fine with Islam. They think Islam's fine. A religion that is so extreme, that is so dogmatic, so hostile, and unable to tolerate anything that doesn't belong to it. And these women that they're marching the streets at a Palestine rally wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and they don't even realize that Muslims are looking at that and going, you're a slut. Muslim women think that about them, just for wearing shorts and a t-shirt in the street. I'm not kidding you. This is actually how it is. So let's circle this into things that are kind of happening right now. So we have real world evidence that Islamists are driving these extreme liberal people to be pro-Palestine, to fly terrorist flags in our streets in the West, to turn their backs on their own countrymen, to turn their backs on Christianity and everything that gave them a good life, to worship this cult, this Free Palestine cult, which is an extension of the Islam cult. And we now know that Iran funded these terrorist attacks on Jewish restaurants in Sydney and Melbourne, and that these Free Palestine marches are highly orchestrated. They are heavily funded. The amount of propaganda and B-rolls and social media marketing and everything that's gone into this pro-Palestine campaign, and the orchestration of marches week in, week out. And now we see our own leaders in Britain and in Australia literally bending over a barrel for Islamic ideology. There is a force that is so huge driving this, and we know now it's probably Iran. It's probably other Middle Eastern countries that have a lot of money And they have hijacked our algorithms, our streets, our politicians. And this is the goal of Islam. This is the goal. As I said, they have a goal to take over the world. It's been the goal since the time of Muhammad. That was his goal, to turn every corner of this earth into Islam. And the way he went about it was by forced conversion. And if people refused to acknowledge him as a prophet, he would behead them. And the first group of people that refused to acknowledge him as a prophet were the Jews. And he hated them. He hated the Jews because they didn't believe in him. There are documented historical events about his military endeavors where he beheaded hundreds of Jews and wrote into the Quran to kill these infidels, the Jews and the Christians. The Quran has a lot of Jew hate in it, a lot. If you've never picked up a Quran, I urge you to do so because it's all written in there. And so that brings me to my next point, which is that these socialists that are very much pushing our society into communism, we're like pretty much already there, to be honest. It's all because we turn our backs on Christianity. And it's not new. It's not new that socialism and Islam go hand in hand. Lenin, like the Soviet Union Lenin, communist Lenin, courted Muslims in the Soviet Union. Later, Hitler also admired Islam. So Hitler thought Islam was a strong and militant religion. He thought Christianity was weak. He believed that Islam aligned better with Germans, The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem even met with Hitler in 1941 to align against Jews and the West. And so we can see this happening again now. Socialist leaders aligning with Islam. So here is my warning to Western women. Do your research. Stop cheering on these movements you don't understand that will enslave you eventually, that will enslave all of us. You're walking through the streets now, wearing whatever you want, saying whatever you want, doing whatever you want. I'm telling you right now, if communism or Islam becomes the political structure of our countries in the West, you will not be able to wear whatever you want. You will not be able to go wherever you want. You will be not able to say whatever you want. Do you understand that? Do you understand that Western society is the only society in the world that allows you to do that? And that you are actively destroying it by being a traitor to your own society, to your own ancestors? Stop mocking the only faith that ever gave you freedom. Stop aligning yourself with ideologies that want you erased, hidden, sterilized, and owned. When you wave that flag, when you scream those slogans, when you embrace those causes, you are cheering your own demise. Jesus might not be fashionable anymore, but Christianity is the only foundation that gave you dignity and protection. And your forefathers, your grandfathers, fought to maintain that way of life for you. And this is how you repay them. And then you call your countrymen racists for also trying to protect your freedom. Your freedom. If you tear down our society, if you tear down your own people, your own, whatever you want to call your religious background, your Christian moral background, because a lot of people don't realize when we talk about British values, Christian values, as if it's something from the past, it isn't something of the past. We're living Christian values. We're living Western values. It's just crazy to me. Your values are Christian values. Somewhere along the line, you got corrupted into believing these satanic ideologies are moral and are better than Christianity, when they're just inverted. They're inverted truths. You're going to wake up one day and find that it's too late. You're going to wake up one day and be looked up and down in the street by men as if you're a piece of meat. You're going to wake up one day and be told to shut up because you're a woman and your voice doesn't count. You're going to wake up one day and be forced to wear head-to-toe cloth even in the middle of summer, because if you don't, you'll be a victim of rape or humiliation or stoning. And I know this sounds extreme. I know it sounds way off and far away, but it's not, because these things are happening in the world today in Muslim countries. You need to wake up and do your research. Stop listening to what the algorithm's telling you. The algorithm is driven by money. It is paid for by billionaires in the Middle East, billionaires in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, in places that have more money than you can comprehend. And you think that they're oppressed. They're not oppressed. They're the oppressors. Their own people are suffering. Iran used to be a free country. Iran used to be a country where women can go and get educated and drive cars around and wear whatever they want and listen to music. And they lived so happily until Islamists took over their country. It's happened all through the Middle East. If you do your research, you'll realize so many Middle Eastern countries used to be so much more liberated. And wherever Islam goes, it has no tolerance for any other religions. Jews have to go, Christians have to go, and they either get converted, killed, or pushed out. That's how it works, guys. You need to wake up. Wake up before it's too late. This is the Western Oracle, and I see things before they happen. Like and subscribe.